Welcome everyone to another episode of the Imperial Scholars Podcast. My name is Mitch. As always, my co-host is Cabs, and in today's episode we cover yet another name character of the Sundering series. Today we cover none other than the Shadow King himself, Allith Anar. This is going to be a weird episode, and I really don't know how to even follow up from there beyond it's going to be a weird episode. Cabs, I hope you're prepared, because these only get stranger, and this one is a good guy this time around, but it doesn't change the fact that it's weird elf shit.
Wait, so he's a good, like he's like a good guy, like in quotations, or like a good guy, like he's gonna be interesting, or both?
Yeah, a bit of both, because he is loyalist. He is like loyal to the Ashur. But this guy is basically the best way I can describe him. Do you know the series or the comic The Crow?
No, I've never heard about the Crow.
All
but
right.
please go on. Make your.
Do you know Batman?
Batman. Yes, I do know Batman.
All right. Do you know the Punisher?
Yes.
This is basically Batman, Punisher, Elfman.
What?
So
how does that work?
Let's. You're gonna find out. This is, like I said, this is gonna be meme worthy. Some meme juice coming your way. So, you remember somewhat. Also, I know that you're quite tired, and you were like, "Oh, I don't know if I could focus that much for this." Don't worry. Even if 100% coherency, this is gonna not make any sense one way or another. So.
That's so promising when you tell me that it's not gonna make any sense. But
no,
all right.
No, because this. You know what this is like? This character. This is if like female fanfic of Warhammer, like tall, brooding, dark elf boy, ladies man.
Oh,
that's what this is. This is like emo as sin. So. Let's get started. Let's finally hop in.
Right.
So, during the events of the Sundering, before everything was going on, like with the actual war between Malekith and the Phoenix King, we're going way back to before the war has even started, and the cult uprising are just beginning. And Allith Anar is a prince of Nagaryth, actually, like a lesser prince. So his family actually had some pretty deep ties to the Phoenix King and to Malekith's bloodline. Like, I think his grandfather was the flag bearer of Malekith's dad, right? The Phoenix King. So pretty prominent. And Allith Anar is a young prince and born in this family. And one thing that's, like, one weird thing I'm noticing here is that all the characters that we have for loyalists of the Sundering, they're all super introverted dudes, and Allith Anar is no exception.
So we got a little introverted edgelord on our hands.
Yeah, we really do. Like so all he really does is he's not very good at just talking to people. He's not very good at the diplomacy, which is another running theme for some reason. Why is it like I just realized like literally every guy who gets promoted to positions of power is like they suck at talking.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I usually think like the elves would be like, very like silver tongue-esque, right? Like, being able to talk, but like Warhammer's like, nah. Well, I'm just gonna promote these warriors or whatever.
Yeah, well, it's weird because they are supposed to be that, but for some reason all the name characters are just like, I walk my own path. They got I don't know, they got some emo band playing in the background. They just do their thing. But anyways, so yeah, he's doing his thing, and at the time he's basically just a major hunter, right? Like all he does is just hunt, and although it is worth pointing out that he does have his eye on a lady at the time. And they're passing notes. They're doing the proper prim and proper elf stuff of like passing notes or keeping it, within the confines of noble lord and lady. But at the same time, him being Allith Anar, decides like he's just gonna go hunting, and eventually he gets warned like, oh, by the way, so basically it's weird because these I don't even know, like, if I think it's a character, like, I think this is a group that was founded by the Phoenix King. I think they were founded by Assyrian. But this weird, like, raven cloaked dude, like raven feather cloaked dude, basically appears and is basically just like telling him, he's basically just dropping prophecies of bad stuff to come and like what he should not do.
Oh, bro, you know what this reminds me of, man?
Yeah, go for
I
it.
think you just said that. Wait, does this guy turn evil? Wait, I just need a little spoiler. Does he turn evil?
And no, like I said, it's Batman Punisher though. So
Okay, because like when you said like Raven, dude, that just like gave me like a freaking like whooshoom flashback to like Warcraft 3 Frozen Throne, bro.
oh my, yeah.
Or like sorry, Warcraft 3, not Frozen Throne, but like the original Warcraft 3, because that's like that's like the prophecy guy for like the prince, right?
Yeah,
Anyways,
I know
side
what you're
note,
talking about.
that just reminded me of that. I don't know why.
Oh, we're not even 10 minutes in and we're already going like, okay. Anyways.
My bad. I didn't
No.
throw us off like that.
I said, this is going to be meme juice worthy. So I got flash forward. So eventually, there's a ball that takes place. Allith Anar is there with his lady and they're dancing the night away, doing things all proper. And then all of a sudden, there's an ambush in the ball. But, from like the cultists, who are basically, they're just like, who are these dudes? Like, we don't know what's going on. The weird thing about reading Allith Anar's book is he doesn't know what's going on, but the reader always does. And it's further strange because he's all about subterfuge.
Okay.
So it's an interesting angle, like reading the book, because you kind of know what's going on when he doesn't. But
that makes like an interesting book, no?
It really does, yeah. If Allith Anar weren't such a weirdo and like just random stuff was happening, so basically this ambush takes place. They make quick work of the cultists to just like get the hell off my property, and basically the cultists are just like, well, meet again, and so eventually Allith Anar and his family are looking at this going like, I think we need to take action because Malekith isn't here anymore. And, we've been getting all of these rumors about Marathi basically trying to usurp him and basically take control of Ulthuan and turn it to the Dark Gods, right? So eventually, him and his family, they take this force that is loyal to them because they are still princes, right? Of their they're up in like the mountains also, it's worth mentioning. So they're pretty isolated from other people as well. But anyway, so they take their forces and they go and they start basically just seeing what's going on, like basically scouting Ulthuan and just being like, they see the cultists and all this stuff and they see all the depravity. And like I said, Allith Anar being Allith Anar and his family being of the Anar house, they decide to use subterfuge and like stealth tactics. So they were all like ninjas, basically.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, they all use stealth to get around, and they actually like they use some pretty like weird tactics though, as far as like their subterfuge. So they'll actually like take the. I think they like actually like take like the scalps of like the Druchii to make them look like Druchii.
Wait, what?
Stuff like that, yeah. Like it's pretty dark elf stuff.
That's pretty badass, though. Not gonna lie.
yeah. It's and again, it's like okay, so I guess because of the whole like Nagaryth would be a cursed land, like the dark, like he's of Nagaryth, right? Like he's Nagaryth born, but he's not a dark elf or like a Druchii, but he's got dark tones, no doubt, compared to like the average Joe Schmo. So. Yeah, so they're going in and doing all this stuff, and eventually, Malekith. Eventually, well, yeah. Remember when I talked about like how Malekith went to go and attack this big fortress to basically be like Nagaryth is mine, and this is my, I will take it back.
So I remember that.
Allith Anar was actually responsible for like opening the gates. He actually like didn't know that Malekith was coming back. But then he came, as he did come back, he's like, all right, guys, now's our opportunity. We can just sneak in, open the gates, and do all this stuff. And at that point, like, Allith Anar actually meets with Malekith. and is like, my liege, the Prince of Nagaryth, like, you finally come back to us. And he goes like, well done. You and your family are always, I can always rely on you, Allith Anar. Very well done. And he bends the knee to Malekith and is like, I swear to you my fealty at all times. Because again, at this point, they are loyal, right? Malekith is still loyal to Ulthuan. He still thinks that, Marathi is what needs to be brought down.
Oh, okay, yeah. So this is before Malekith like went all bonkers, right?
Yes, exactly. This is when he's still a good dude. Air quotes,
Okay,
good
okay.
dude.
Yeah, in quotations.
Yeah. I mean, the guy who becomes the future leader of the Druchii, I don't think he's going to go from Mr. Rogers to what he becomes. So,
Yeah.
anyways, so fast forward, and they're like, oh, okay, like, things are looking quite a bit better for us, like, like, Marathi is imprisoned, all of this stuff, and they go back to the usual shtick of just, like, living back in their home, and just, residing there, right? But at this time, like, Allith Anar has seen quite a bit of dark stuff, and he really hates the cultists because he saw all the depravity that they were doing of, like, lighting people on fire while they were still alive and just, skinning them and all this gross stuff for the sake of it. And I was like, I hate these guys. No one hates the cultists and the Druchii quite like Allith Anar.
Yeah, so he just like completely hates them then.
Yeah, it's basically like the Druchii level of resentment and just violence given towards the Druchii.
All right. Isn't he a dark elf himself, like a Druchii himself or whatever?
Well, like I said, he's of Nagaryth, but, he didn't choose to become a dark elf. That's the interesting part. Like, he remained loyal, even though everyone else around him was, yeah. Okay, although you'll find out why, because eventually one of Malekith's guys comes over and is like, oh, I need to place you guys under house arrest because I'm concerned you might actually be cultists. There's been accusations that you guys are cultists. I know this is very intrusive, but I just need you to just stay put. And at the time, they're like, okay, fine, whatever. It's Malekith's orders. He's our prince and ruler. Not a problem. But eventually, like, time passes and they're going like, this is ridiculous. Like, what is happening? We don't know what's going on. And we've just been stuck in here for God knows how long. So Allith decides the best course of action, like him and his family decide the best course of action is for Allith to sneak out and get a council with the Phoenix King, who at this point is still Belshazzar. And he sneaks out, manages to get up there, but at the same time is kind of like, I can't just go up and... for some reason, it's this thing of he can't just go up and... I think it was because, like, Belshazzar didn't know who he could trust at the time. Mm-hmm. So he wasn't able to just go up and talk to Belshazzar. He was like, I have to find a way to get in there myself. So what he does, actually, because at this point, it's worth pointing out that I think his girlfriend or, like, his date or whatever, basically, they moved to, like, the other side of Ulthuan, and so he was just like, I'm probably just not going to see her again. I think they were, like, supposed to be wed. But it was like, no, probably not going to happen.
Long distance don't really work for them, huh?
Apparently not. Apparently, in the wide span of Warhammer Ulthuan, it's like, it's a hop, skip, and away, but nah, it's too far. I could go via dragon or messenger great eagle, but, whatever. Anyways, point is that it seems like that ship is looking pretty rickety, and he basically disguises himself as a servant, actually.
Oh.
And while he's disguised as a servant, he meets a young lass who is also a servant that they're just, at this party attending to everyone. And during this time, she reveals, like, oh, my I think it's, like, one of her uncles or father or whatever is, like, pretty, like, high up there. Like, she's acting as a servant, but, like, her family, like, someone is able to, like, get him an audience with Belshazzar. And he's like, oh, okay, like, what do I have to do for you? And she just kind of puts her hand on his lap. It's like, well, what can you do for me? And you can imagine where it goes from there.
No way.
So I'm like, there you go, man. Like I said, this
Oh
feels
no.
like it is written as a female fanfic.
That must have been great to read.
Bro, I was looking at that going like, there's no way that that really just happened. He like, yeah, he rizzed his way to getting with a random girl to getting a audience with the Phoenix King. So
That's just a double W for my boy here, all right?
it really listen, all right. He's got to take all the W's he can get because in the future things are going to be going pretty bleak. It's Warhammer, bud.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So eventually, Allith Anar does manage to. I think he just sneaks in. I think he legitimately just sneaks in and tells Belshazzar, like, "Hey, by the way, like, you know, I need to know what's going on. Can we get this figured out? Like, with Marathi, you know, imprisoned." And he basically just says, "I need you to wait." Like Belshazzar just tells him, "I need you to wait here because I need to get everything in order and I need to get all the info myself." And he goes, "Okay, well, can I go home then?" "Oh, no, because if something happened to you on the journey home, I would be personally responsible for that myself." So Allith Anar is literally just stuck waiting around for the Phoenix King to do something. And it gets to the point that he's in the palace for so long, he's having his on and off fling with this servant girl. And at one point, someone bursts into his chambers and he's like, what do you think you're doing? And they go, "The Phoenix King is dead by poison." And at this point, they suspect, like, there's all this stuff that they suspect him of being with the cults, right? There's all this, like, weird stuff that they left behind to indicate that he was a cultist in disguise. You know, Malekith and his guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then at this point, he's like, "Okay, this is, like, what do we do from this point forward?" And he's discussing this with other princes that are, like, in the palace. And then all of a sudden, he looks outside, and this is that scene of, he sees Marathi leaving. And this is the scene where Malekith, like, they see this carriage come trolling on forward, emitting smoke.
Oh yeah.
And Marathi is smiling from ear to ear, and they just open the thing, and out drops, like, It sounds like he literally opened the door, and his corpse just, like, falls out. And she's just screaming as his charred body's on the ground, because also they suspect that Malekith is dead at this point. They find out about the coup. So Allith Anar doesn't actually know, like, who that body is. He just sees he just sees that sprite from Gmod or whatever it is, just, like, on the ground, just smoking up. And Marathi stealing a corpse and fleeing the scene.
My man must have been so confused.
Like I said, when you read it, it's like you know what's going on. Allith Anar has no clue throughout the entire book, ironically.
That's actually kind of funny.
It's,
I'm not gonna lie.
It's hilarious, and it does make the book a lot more interesting, to be honest. But eventually, yeah, Allith Anar is looking at this going like, all right, with everything going on, I can't wait here any longer. I need to go back home to my family. So he straight up just leaves. Or sorry, actually what happens is he tries to leave. And that's when there's, like, all this weird stuff. I think at this point, like, some of the Nagarathi, I don't remember exactly what happens, but for some reason he ends up getting captured and imprisoned. And one of another dark elf dude eventually, like, breaks him out and is like, "Oh, I need you to flee with my family and get them out of here." So he does, and, like, you know, the other guy does this big last stand, this big noble last stand to, you know, fight off the baddies while Allith and the family can escape. The family eventually gets to this safe place, and he drops them off, and it's like, whatever. For the sake of the narrative of Allith Anar, you know, he gets back to his house expecting, like, what should I be expecting? Like, I have no idea what's been going on. And surprisingly, everything is fine, actually, and the house arrest has been lifted. Like, his family's totally fine, and nothing has happened. And eventually, like, some time passes. Marathi is not done anything to attack the Anars, and so finally his family decides, all right, we need to start taking the fight to the Druchii. So, Allith and his father go to, they take a force and they start basically just doing raids, right? Like any caravan of the Druchii or the cultists, they just start, taking that stuff, burning it, whatever, using it for themselves, giving it to the closest town, whatever they can do to just help the war front, right?
So he's kind of like a guerrilla fighter then. Like
Yeah,
he just kind of pops out.
That's a perfect way to put it. Yeah, guerrilla warfare is their specialty.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's the term
I'm
I was
guessing
trying
he's like
to find.
an archer. He's like an archer.
Yeah, he's supposed to be like the greatest archer in all of Nagaroth and all this stuff, right? That's a key point of it.
Okay, so he's like Legolas, but guerrilla warfare, like Vietnam, hiding in the ground kind of crap.
pretty much, yeah. That's the best way. That's a perfect way to describe it. Actually, I should just start off with that. I should have led with that. Mix that in with the Punisher, and you're basically you're 2 for 2.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. So eventually, him and his dad and their forces go and they fight this battle, and the battle is going well enough until they find out that they bit off more than they can chew, and someone shouts "dragon" as loud as they can. And sure enough, right over the horizon comes a giant black dragon, ridden by that asshole who raided their house recently.
Oh.
And his back is now broken. I think Malekith actually broke his back when he was still loyalist. But he's now turned Druchii, and it's like, alright, well, I guess I serve the dude who basically turned me into Ivar. But whatever. Turned me into Professor X with a dragon. So, but sure enough, right as they say that, the dragon comes swooping over and murders Allith's father right in front of his son's eyes. And
like how though? Does he like eat him? Does he burn him up?
I think he like straight up just like picks him up and then just, I don't remember. It was like just like turns him to shreds at that point. I think it might just bite his head off, something around those lines. His dragon axe, he goes after him specifically and just like before Alec can even figure out what's happening, his dad is gone, like eviscerated. Yeah, it's pretty brutal. And at that point, it's like, there's nothing we can do. Like, we're a bunch of guerrilla warfare dudes with bows and arrows. Like, we're getting out of dodge. So they just flee the scene with as many survivors as they could. And, Allith is basically left alone, just trying to flee. I don't know if anyone else even lives through this, to be honest. Maybe, like, 1 or 2 dudes. So Allith decides, all right, the best option I can take now is, like, to go home, basically, and warn everyone, like, of what's going on. And as he gets home, he unfortunately finds that his entire household is just totally sacked, and the only survivor is a completely brutalized and tortured servant who basically says, yeah, the Druchii came in here and killed everyone. And it's like, oh, well, what happened to my mother and my grandfather? He's like, don't make me, like, repeat the horrors they committed to your mother. And I know not what happened to your grandfather. And then the guy just basically croaks there. And Allith is just, like, in the remnants of his childhood home.
Oh, shit. He's getting, like, an intense backstory, like, just brewing right now.
Yeah. It's also worth pointing out, like, that Raven Herald dude has been showing up every now and then just prophesizing. But it's kind of weird because it's like, yeah, thanks, pal. Like, thanks for letting me know, like, probably shouldn't have done that. Probably, I think bad things are going to happen. And then shows up, like, after his family's dead. Didn't I tell you bad things would happen, kid? Thanks.
Like, he runs into him again.
Yeah, he keeps bumping into him, just being like, huh? Didn't I tell you? Things were going to go poorly. I warned you. Don't say I didn't warn you. It's like, thanks, dick. I was unaware.
Dude, he must low-key hate that guy, too, honestly.
The character shows up, like, I'm giving it not enough credit, because the character basically shows up like a specter. But, yeah, it is just this thing of, like, reading it going, yeah, thanks, dude. Like, what are you even here for? You want to help? You want to do something? It's like, I was watching. I saw the whole thing go down. I could have hopped in. I don't know. It's funny. Just strange, man. I don't know if he was actually there, but he's certainly there to, make Allith just feel bad. So Allith at this point decides, well, basically, like he's just mega depresso, and he just starts like just wandering aimlessly. It's kind of the way I can best think of it is like now he's just fueled by so much hate and despair, right? And it kind of feels well. I mean, basically, what happens was it was after the eclipse, right? Everyone he knows and cares about is dead, and now he's just left wandering.
Yeah.
And eventually he does get his bearings about him. I think the Raven dude actually helps him get his bearings about him. It's been a while since I read the book. And there's just fine details here and there that I've forgotten about. I actually had to watch a video because so much stuff happens and I was like, oh yeah, that was weird. Anyways, but I remembered it was actually like relevant. So, eventually he gets his bearings about him after like just weeks of just, listening to Nirvana on repeat. And finally,
man just fucking had to find himself in the forest.
yeah, pretty much just listen to Something in the Way. Anyways, so he finally decides to get back into the fight, and he goes to another. I think at some point he basically starts training like people who can't defend themselves. And at some point, someone says to him, being like, you're a fallen noble, like you don't have any, any pedigree left at this point. Being like, and you're going to lead this army, you will be a Shadow King, and hence where he gets his title, the Shadow King Allith Anar.
That's actually kind of smart, I guess.
Yeah, because everyone thinks he's dead, right? Like he's not like yeah. Literally no one knows what happened to him. So at this point, it's just like this random dude just helping us to defend ourselves in guerrilla warfare and making soldiers out of regular citizens. And eventually,
pretty cool.
Yeah. So eventually, he joins the war front with the other elven nobles. He does find a way back into it, and becomes part of the fight on the front lines, and he fights a handful of battles, and at some point he actually falls for another young lady. There's a theme going on here.
Yeah.
Put
your hand on my thigh.
This is not an unrequited love situation, but it doesn't lead anywhere, because he basically falls for this, I think it's a Lyrian princess, which is like a kingdom in Ulthuan. Anyway, some elven kingdom that's like he falls for the princess, but his brother looks at him and is basically like, listen, dude, there's something going on here. I won't deny that. And it's like, but let me talk you down here and put this into reality. It's like, I can't like have you wedding my sister if you continue down this vengeance, like this pathway for vengeance, right? Like this, like just blood-soaked way, and basically just remaining as the Shadow King of like no one knowing you. It's like, my sister's a freaking princess of the realms. And so he's like, okay, you have two options. Like, either give up this. I don't exactly know. It's a bit odd, because I'm like, he's going to be fighting one way or another, but basically, like, stop being the Shadow King and come back to elven society, or, remain with your guerrilla warfare and your, like, Walmart ninjas, and, either become a major part of the war or basically, like, give up this subterfuge life. And he basically just looks at him and is just like, I cannot stop, for I am vengeance. For no, yeah, he just straight up is just like, and I will continue my path. Justice for Negaryth. And it's weird though too, because at this point he leaves solo.
Oh.
And he just straight up dips. I guess because he was just so depressed about like having to leave this other love of his life, the third one in one book, that
he's just like, no ass can tempt me. I'm too angry.
Yeah, no ass can stand in the way of true justice. So, I'm vengeance. And at this point, this is where things really go off the handle. Because Allith at this point goes to the magical forest of Athel... Not Athelloren. Ugh. There's a magical forest where the Everqueen exists, right? Remember I was talking about that during the Sundering episode? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he goes to that totally isolated and is just hunting and living as a primitive wild man. He chooses to just leave it all behind. Like, he's not fighting the war, and he's also not with third love of his life.
Okay.
And yeah, so he continues to be the Shadow King of just hunting elk. And at one point he is hunting elk and a pack of wolves arrive. And he starts talking to the wolves. Via like some weird elven psychic magic stuff that he has. But they don't talk like... You ever see Princess Mononoke where it's like the wolves just like talk like normal?
Yeah?
Yeah, they don't talk like that. They talk unga bunga.
Alright.
So the wolf like sees a kill, like Alice shoots a deer and the wolf is like, I kill. Teeth, claws sharp. And Allith is responding going like, my kill. Teeth, claws sharp. Yeah, then eventually they go like, and then Allith kills the deer and is like, our kill. You know, like, one of pack. And at this point, Allith strips butt-ass naked and starts hunting with the wolves and living amongst the wolves.
What? Bro, what? I'm lost for words. What?
Dude, how do you
that
think
just went a whole 180?
How do you think I felt reading this? Like, this is...
Okay.
Like I said, fanfic. Like, this feels like fanfic at this point with this. But, yeah, so he's hunting amongst the wolves. And he's like, I am now part of the wolf pack. Like, I leave this Shadow King life behind me.
No, there's no way.
And this goes on for like a chapter or two, and then eventually, like, the Druchii are attacking. I think this is actually when Marathi tries to kill the Everqueen. Like, the Druchii are in the forest, and Alice starts like fighting the Druchii. He starts killing the Druchii, and the wolves like start fighting as well, and they kill like a small group. But then Allith looks at this and is basically like, I can't have, like, you're animals. I can't have you guys fighting this war against dark elves. There's no way you guys will win. You need to flee this. And, at this point, Allith looks at everything going on and is like, I know now where my role is. I can no longer be amongst the pack. And so he leaves his life with the wolves.
What, dude? What?
To live a life of just living solo venture once again.
What was the point of him being with the wolves? I thought like he was gonna maybe get some like familiar or something, like like some cool wolf spell.
No.
What?
No, that just happens for the sake of it happening, for him to find out that maybe I don't like running around butt-ass naked with the wolves. But another thing does happen eventually while he's in that like magical forest, where he sees a glow in a pond, like just a weird glowing light. And he goes towards the light, like he starts swimming deeper and deeper into the pond, and this thing is just blinding. And we find out that what it is actually is that... So at one point, the Everqueen actually sees him running with the wolves, butt naked, and is like, ah yes, he is pure of heart. We should give him Kurnus's gift, and Kurnus is like the god of the hunt, right?
Yeah.
And needless to say, Allith Anar, being the hunter and the bowman he is pretty into worshipping Kurnus. And so he goes down to the bottom of this lake, and we find out that glow is actually a bow. And the bow is actually a bow according to the lore of the elven gods. It's the bow of Kurnus, which he created for the goddess Isha, because
Okay.
Isha and Kurnus were basically lovers who couldn't be together, right? It's kind of like, again, going back to Greek here, my theory that like the elves are Greek, it's Persephone and Hades, right? Like
Okay.
lovers who are unable to be together. So he made her this bow to commemorate his love to her, or had Vol create the bow. And so now, yeah, Allith has this bow, and it's a pretty fancy ass bow. I mean, again, it's infused with like godly powers. So
So
eventually,
I'm
Allith.
guessing this. Oh, sorry.
No,
Keep
go
going.
ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm guessing this is like some named bow, then, like some special bow.
Well, like I said, right? Like this is the bow of Kurnus. Like this is the god's bow.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like, if you're asking like if it has any special abilities, I think it grants him like some cool new magic stuff that he can do,
Okay.
which we'll get
Gotcha.
to soon. So eventually, Alith comes out of the woods and goes back to his followers of like the guerrilla warfare dudes, and they're kind of like, "Why are you naked? Why are you covered in mud? Why do you have a new bow? What the hell is happening?" And he goes like, "I was lost, but now I remember why I'm here, for vengeance." And he goes back to fighting with the dudes. And really, at this point, just being a pain in the ass for the cultists. And down the line, the cultists are, Marathi sends this thing being. Marathi sends out all these guys to go and try to deal with this Shadow King that she's heard of. But even like the most elite generals and all these guys are not able to hunt this guy down. And eventually, Marathi, another gentleman goes and speaks to Marathi and says, "I think I have a resolution to deal with your Shadow King problem. May I introduce my daughters, and one of which is Helebron."
Oh.
Yes, I forget the other sister's name, but she is also there. Lyriath, I think. So
Yeah.
Helebron and Lyriath are actually, and at this point, this is Helebron being reunited with Marathi.
Yeah.
So this is being like, yes, you who told me I would never, become anything. Look where I am now, as a master assassin that you need to deal with your Shadow King problem. And so the sisters go off to go and try to find the Shadow King and, his followers. And basically their means of going about this is to basically just assault random citizens. And just being like, "Where is he?"
All right. I mean, I
Oh,
guess that works.
well, it actually does to a degree because, Alith's whole thing is like to kill the Druchii for justice, and to save the innocent. Again, he's Batman.
Yeah. Okay. Fair.
Yeah, and so eventually, like, they're kind of like, yes, like they're torturing these random citizens, and then eventually the door is kicked open, and Alith is like, "Ha ha!" And using the bow of Kurnus, like, shoots the bow and actually kills Helebron's sister. Like,
Oh.
immediately.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. So she must be pissed. That might be like the worst person to piss off.
Yeah,
Like
that is
the
a.
mommy dommy.
Yeah, that's a bad, bad granny to be pissing off, man. So you can guess what happens. And at this point, it's like he's been spotted. And so she swiftly just closes the distance. And at that point, it's like, Alith isn't any slouch with a sword, but
Yeah.
this is Helebron. So he swiftly just, they're fighting. Helebron eventually stabs her sword deep into his gut and under his ribs and into his heart. And then eventually Helebron just decapitates him right there on the spot.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. And she takes the bow of Kurnus and is like, "All right, like we will bring this to Marathi as a gift." And eventually, like one of the followers sees this, and Helebron is just kind of like, it's not a big issue. Like, let them spread word that the Shadow King is dead.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah,
So he
and
just died.
well, yeah, like what happens is like they go back and they would, the person who saw the whole thing go down explains the message to the other guerrilla fighters. And right at that moment, Allith Anar just pops up. He just emerges out of the shadows. And
Wait, what?
so what happened was the bow of Kurnish actually granted him the magical ability to basically create a duplicate of himself.
Ah.
So now it's like he was already a master of guerrilla warfare. Now he has magic to dupe you into thinking that you've already killed him. It's like, no, you just killed a clone, basically.
Yo, that's kind of a little bit. Did not expect that. Not gonna lie.
Yeah,
Damn.
I was trying to keep you on your toes to think maybe this guy was actually dead, but I'm like, the very next chapter is like him coming back to life. So
It's like you see 3 more chapters left in the book. You're like, wait a second here.
well, yeah, I'm reading it and I'm like, there's like 10 chapters left. Like, there's no way. So
Yeah, that's kind of sick. Okay, so this guy must be a pain in the ass to murder then.
he is pretty much, yeah, like, again, he's the Shadow King, and that remains his legacy as the, Shadow King of Nagaryth. It's just the nightmare of the Druchii. And so eventually he goes like, all right, I'm going to go get my bow back. So he uses his classic subterfuge ways, like, disguising himself as a Druchii, getting into the palace where Marathi is waiting. And eventually he does, like, get his bow back. But at the same time, there's a weird moment where he actually is reunited with his grandfather, who's just sitting on a porch.
Oh.
And he finds out that his grandfather has been blinded and just basically, like, they tortured him for a while, but they left him just as he is on a porch. And he's blinded, but he's just a senile old man. And he's like, grandfather, it's me. It's your grandson, Allith. And it's like tears in his eyes, but the grandfather doesn't buy it. He thinks it's Druchii magic to torture him further.
No way.
So he's like, get away from me, you Druchii scum. How dare you impersonate my grandson. And it's like, all right, well, best wishes, grandfather. It's like, here, get out of here. And he doesn't actually, like, there's no point of, like, closure there. He straight up is just like, you're not my grandson. Get away from me.
Oh,
Yeah,
poor guy.
Allith just leaves. He's like, oh, okay. Oh, I think he does leave, like, behind, like, a note from Marathi being like, oh, yeah, I guess you're still alive, bitch. And so, yeah, Marathi's none too pleased about that. And the same antics go on with Allith Anar, fighting the Druchii, destroying caravans. And eventually he gets word of a new character entering the scene, like a new Druchii lord who they need to be concerned about, who's causing way more problems than any lord prior. And that is a character that is only referred to as the Witch King. And we know who the Witch King is.
Yep.
Yep. So sure enough, Allith goes to meet the Witch King, and he sees this, he goes out with his forces to meet them on the front lines, and he sees the Witch King emerging on this black dragon. He sees a character walking through the snow towards Allith Anar, just emitting steam, melting the snow with every step he takes, and just brooding over Allith, just stares him down and goes, "Ah, yes, Allith, do you not remember when you swore your fealty to me?" And at that point,
damn.
like, that's a Darth Vader moment. If, like, I am your father. Like,
Yeah,
this is
no,
the dude he
straight
swore
up.
fealty to, right? So, and also who he thought was dead. And it's like, oh no, I've actually just swapped sides and just turned to the dark side.
Yeah. Crazy.
And so at that point, Malekith basically says, turn to the dark side. Join me. And you're going to guess what Allith Anar's response is. Like, hell no. Absolutely
Just
not.
shoots him with an arrow.
You would think, but for some reason, I mean, it is Malekith, but yeah, he's like, he ends up having to flee the scene, and he manages to avoid him in the mountains of Nagaryth. It's like, he actually does get away from him.
Yeah, honestly, I'm running away at that point. Dude,
Oh, dude.
melting the snow.
Yeah.
Black armor.
And also, it's
Hell no.
Malekith. It's Malekith who you saw, like, how badass he could be, like, firsthand, at that siege prior. Be like, oh, and now he's leading an army of Druchii. I don't think so. I'm gonna use my ninja powers and just get out of here. Eviscerate with the mist, like Naruto. So
Yeah, exactly. Just gotta book it at that point.
yeah. And that's exactly what he does. He flees to the mountains with his followers, and flash forward quite a ways later, where we have Prince Imric of Calador, and there's a scene where he's fighting off the Druchii, and he actually spots Malekith, but he doesn't know it's Malekith. He just sees a character looming in the distance, watching over the battle with his black dragon. And during this fight, the Imric is like basically brought to the ground with his dragon. He also just sees a weird thing where it's like the Druchii are being killed off by basically just shadows, like literally just blobs of darkness where the light's disappearing. He's like, what the hell's happening? And eventually down the line, like his dragon gets knocked down and he's grounded, and he's all of a sudden he wakes up and he's got all of these guys with arrows just, surrounding him. And basically they're called off, and Allith comes out and introduces himself to the new Phoenix King and basically says, like, I stand for Negorith. I stand for the justice against and vengeance against the Druchii. And it basically says, like, Negorith is my lands. I will remain as the lord of these lands. You are welcome here, Phoenix King, but do not consider me, part of your army. Basically, like, I am my own free agent. We are not enemies, but do not assume we are also friends.
Oh, damn.
It's just more it's like, well, I'd love to have you. It being like, I will not fight along with the Asher any longer. My journey for vengeance is too extreme. Like, during his attacks, like, he sent messages to the Druchii where he would, like, crucify them to walls and stuff.
Oh, so he wow. So he's pretty gruesome then.
Like I said, dude, it's Punisher level stuff that he's doing.
Yeah, he's one angry boy.
He is an angry, I don't want to say he's Guts Elf because that seems way too lazy, but, everyone he knows and love has died, and he just leaves, like, mementos, basically, to be like, I'm coming, like, no one is safe. Basically, however I can instill fear in the Druchii, I'm going to take it.
Are they, like, terrified of this guy? Like, the Druchii?
It definitely, like, gets to them that's like, okay, there's something out there hunting us, like the frickin' Predator. It doesn't actually make them waver, but they're aware. They know.
Okay.
So,
is he like wait, I have one more question. Is he like a high enough priority for like Malekith or like all these like Druchii to like go hunt this dude? Like to try to get rid of him? Is he that much of an annoyance?
They did send Hellebron at one point, right? Like, that is their ace in the hole. That is their best assassin. And they thought they did the job.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, he is they know it's like he's a problem. Like, he gets his own book. So...
he's a named character, so he must be an issue.
He must be a major part of the narrative then. Yeah, so he has a big issue just in regards to just, reserves and supplies for the Druchii, right? Like, it's not a thing of, like, we're ever going to go into the actual economics of Warhammer, but you can assume he's causing problems for them.
Yeah, he's just an annoying, like, special ops solo dude.
Precisely.
Kind of like, okay.
Yeah. And also at some point, like, he finds out, like, his very first girlfriend was, like, a Druchii. And basically, like, Oof. Just, like, they were just, like, playing the role to try to, like, manipulate him. And I think he, like, basically just, like, kills that lot.
Oh.
Yeah. Standard at this point.
Yeah, he just doesn't give any craps anymore.
No, again, he for vengeance, So eventually he flees and, gets the thing. he's talking with the Phoenix King, basically saying like, these are my lands. I will remain as like the guardian of Nagaryth, and don't anyone think of like trying to usurp me. So basically just says like, this is mine now. Piss off. And then during the actual events of the Sundering, where like the big cataclysmic thing occurs, Allith Anar is basically just like up in the mountains and just watches his homeland just get washed away to just barren and desolate.
Oh shit! You must get even more pissed.
Oh, I mean, mega depresso. It's hilarious though, because we don't actually get like a major like introspection of what happens after. We hear about it in kind of like the last 2 pages of the Sundering, being like, oh yeah, and then he witnesses everything he knew just washed away in a tidal wave.
Oh no.
So him and his followers are okay, but yeah, he just watches it all disappear. And at that point, Nagaryth is, I mean, he basically just hunts the Druchii for the rest of his life using these tactics, and it's basically like, I will, after the betrayal of Malekith, like he hates Malekith.
Yeah.
He now hates Malekith. It's like that. It's like, yeah, I remember when I vowed myself to you eternally as your servant. It's like, that was back when you weren't a giant, manipulative dirtbag and an utter usurper. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have anything more to add to Allith Anar. This is, like I said, this is a weird character. Because he's a major character who you don't really know when he's there. Like, he's just in the darkness doing his Batman Punisher thing. And he's got, like, semi-immortality cloning powers. I got nothing else. He likes wolves.
He likes wolves. Yeah, that's the important part. I feel like that was the most important part of this man's story.
That was the part that definitely stuck with me reading it. No question. Everything else was like chopped liver.
That's what got him the bow, though. That's the funny thing. So it actually was an important part of his history.
Yeah, I know. Well, was it though? Like, we could have skipped that. He could have just gotten the bow, and that would have been. I don't know.
I have to be one with the hunt, man. Come on.
I guess, yeah. Again, we can't have our elf boy fan fiction if we don't, introduce running naked with wolves and hunting deer for vengeance.
Oh man, this is one wacky character.
Yeah, and that's one thing too. Like I said before, like there was the curse that the Nagarothi would be like they were always like kind of violent, right? This is what happens like when they don't turn bad guys. They just turn into violent sociopathic weirdos who just, try to bed everything in sight from the sounds of it. And then feel really sad about everything afterwards.
Man, dude, I don't even know what to say. This guy, he started off like cool, then he went like wacko, and I guess he ends off kind of cool, being like a little like spec ops dude.
Yeah,
but, yeah, kind of crazy.
And at this point, like Nagaryth folk like have a stigmatism towards them. Like Nagaryth still is there, but they have a stigmatism towards them because it was like, oh, this is where it started, right? This is where the war started. And also because, they are just like this type of folk. They're these hardy, dark weirdos who scalp people and crucify them on walls. So, I don't have anything to lead us off with. Like, I don't, do you have questions? Like,
well, I guess my only question is like, what is he up to now? Like, he's obviously not dead.
No, he's just, keeping Druchii off of Nagaryth. And, really just defending Nagaryth to make sure, like, if a Druchii raid goes on, it's like he's there, at the front, well, not at the front lines, in the shadows, taking guys out with, stealth ops with bows and arrows, and his followers of, elf ninjas.
How does he get more followers? That's a question I do have.
A lot of it is basically just, again, like ninjas being like, well, you common folk don't know how to defend yourselves. I will guide you in the way of the Shadow King.
Okay, so he like goes to like villages and trains up people pretty much.
Yeah, and like if like, people who lose family to the Druchii, it's like, I want to fight them, being like, I can train you. It feels very much like when there's a Batman series where like at the end of it, like he forms an army because Batman is getting old. It feels a lot like that to me. But like weirder and elfier and hornier.
And hornier.
I mean, listen, there were like 3 romantic interests in that book.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Actually, when he meets with the Phoenix King, he literally says, it's like, oh, it's best I leave. I don't want to see that princess. It stirs up too many memories. Best she not see me. Oh my good lord. All right.
Mr. Anar. Mr. Anar.
Mr. Anar, you are a character who we probably won't be, honestly, coming back to ever.
Yeah, so he just kills caravans, like he doesn't do anything. Like he doesn't show up anywhere else.
I mean, he is vengeance. He is the shadows. And he's like relevant of the Sundering. And he doesn't work for the Phoenix King. He doesn't work for the man. He's beyond, his justice is beyond that. So yeah.
He's like a vigilante pretty much.
Yeah, like pretty much. I got genuinely nothing to take us home here with. I'm excited for the next episode. We're done with the Sundering and the elves finally. And I'm actually like, somehow Hellebron was less unhinged as an episode than this. And maybe that's because like it's been a while since I read the book and like I forgot some major details. But I really don't think so. I'm genuine.
No, I feel like I got a good grasp of this guy. I mean, like there isn't that much layers to him. It seems like, right? No,
he's just sad boy.
He's just a sad hunter.
Yeah.
He's just really good at his job. At the end of the day, it
feels like very emo Aragorn, kind of.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Or like Legolas, from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Well, the narrative is a bit like, like Aragorn, right? Like, oh, this is the king of Nagaroth. This is the king of Gondor. And it's like no one knows.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. But I mean, Shadow King's a cool title.
It is. Allith Anar, man, he's a cool dude, but his lore is absolutely bananas. And I don't suspect we'll get anything weirder than that. And honestly, part of me hopes we don't. I don't know if I can handle it.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of like him. I have a soft spot for rogues in fantasy, so I guess he'd be up my alley. Except for the wolves, we could skip on that part.
We could have gotten past the wolves. There's a lot, like he'll have a place in my heart, but it's a love-hate relationship with him.
Yeah, fair enough. So what will be the next episode then? I guess we can end off on that.
Oh, we're gonna spoil that on air. I guess we can go ahead. Well, let's just say that I'm gonna be keeping in tune with the elves in a way, but we need to introduce a new race.
That's good.
Which will have conflict with them in the near future.
All right, that's good. Don't tell me the race. Just tell me we're moving on from the elves. Finally.
Well, I'll put it to you this way, sir. I'm excited to cover the race. So I think you know.
All right. I'm excited too. I'm sure it'll be a fun one.
Oh, yes, sir. All right, everyone. Well, I hope you enjoyed this rambling of an episode that we got through today. Honestly, I enjoyed it. I was really trying to get myself amped up and focused on how to cover this character, because oh boy is he wacky. If I missed anything, please do let me know. Like I said, I'm sure there's a lot of just details of characters who I didn't get to because I just forgot about them. And with all the wackiness of this character, I don't know, can you really blame me? But, regardless, feel free to let me know in the comments. Please do leave a like and consider subscribing. It does help just to know that we've got the support coming our way. So until next time, best wishes to everyone, and take care.
Peace out.